free world.
Yeah. My hitters be moving and shaking and stay out the streets. Yeah. Your hitters be hating, your hitters be looking so weak. Yeah. My hitters be moving and shaking and stay out the streets. Yeah. Your hitters be hating, your hitters be looking so. Snuff the shooter, snuff the looter, snuff the booster, snuff the money mover. Snuff the hater, snuff the player, snuff your hairline, tape up and shape up. Snuff the shooter.
Hail to the culture. Yes, people, we are back with another episode. Redskins fans, what it do? The draft right around the corner. And we got some big news. In Redskins Nation. Of course, I'm Bryce, joined by my bro, Rome. Rome, what it do, bro?
What's up, people?
So, man, let's jump right into it, roll-ups. We got some big news, man. We got some big news. Reuben Foster will not be suspended. I mean, it's not necessarily breaking news, but we haven't touched on it as of yet. So, Ron, what were your first reactions, man, when you heard that Reuben Foster wouldn't be suspended this year?
My first reaction to the Reuben Foster news not getting suspended was bravo to Bruce Allen. Anyone who follows us here at Hell of the Culture knows that we are extremely critical of Bruce Allen. And I want to be sure to give him a little bit of props here because when this move was first made, when we first signed him, and you guys can go back and listen to us on this pod, like most people, we were pretty skeptical. It was a bad PR hit. The Redskins said that they had done a little bit of homework, which seemed kind of not believable considering that they claimed him off waivers the day after he had just got arrested. But hindsight is 20/20. The charges were I think the whole case was thrown out again. And here he is with no suspension. He's going to have a small fine, but he will be on the field, and he will likely be our starting linebacker. So what were your initial thoughts? Because I kind of want to talk about what he's going to do on the field. I think this is a big step. This is great news for the Redskins, and I think we should go ahead and give our man Bruce Allen a little bit of credit here.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think Bruce deserves some credit for this one. I guess my initial thoughts were all those national bigwig media guys, man, that just came down on the Redskins for this move. I mean, I didn't hear any apologies from any of them, and that was my first thought because we were definitely dragged through the media for picking up Foster, especially after the allegations he had. And I mean, hindsight is 20/20, and we've ended up on the right side, and we look like we were right all along. But I don't see any of those pundits coming out and correcting themselves. We were also slightly critical of the move when it happened, but we thought it was a great football move on the field because this Foster's a lot better than our other Foster, I'll say, and he brings a certain playmaking ability at that position that we've lacked for some time now. He can cover. We're getting into the football aspect now, but I mean, he can be on the field for 3 downs, and we haven't really had a linebacker like that since maybe London. And at the end of London's career, of course, we didn't really want him on the field during passing downs. But I mean, if you just think about it that way, it's definitely a great move for the defense. How do you look at it as a football move, Ron? What do you think about it?
Well, when we first picked him up, I threw on the film way back in I believe it was November or October that we signed him, but I think it's a great move, man. That was my initial reaction was this is an incredible move. You're going to get him on a rookie deal, so you're not paying him too much money. And he didn't have the greatest season last season before his suspension. When I watched the film, he reminds me a little bit of LeVar Arrington kind of a player or a style. He's kind of wild, reckless, doesn't necessarily always stay in the scheme, but he creates plays. He can hit. He can draw the ball loose. He's much better, like you already alluded to, than our other Foster when it comes to coverage. And while he's still young and very much a raw talent, I think if the Redskins develop him, Rob Ryan specifically, then he could be outstanding. He could be a pro ball, all-pro type of player. He's definitely got the talent. It's just about getting his mindset, obviously off the field and on the field, and that focus level to where it needs to be so that he can dominate on all 3 downs, as you also alluded to.
Yeah, man. I couldn't agree more. And then we're reuniting him with those Alabama guys. I mean, I guess, 60% of our starting defense is going to be Alabama, or at least 50, right? Well,
yeah, something like that. It'd be like 6 or 7 out of the 11.
Yeah, I mean, we could realistically have 2 starting middle linebackers, both from Alabama this year, and Foster and Sean Dion Hamilton, who seems like he earned the staff's trust towards the end of the season. So I mean, it could be something special. I like what we're building on defense in that regard. So let's keep it moving, though, man. We've had a lot of shots.
One final thought, real quick. One final thought on Reuben. If Reuben, I know we talked about football and all that stuff, and I just want to keep it all in a good perspective, because obviously we're excited as Redskins supporters of him being able to play with no suspension. But I will say this: if going forward, if there's any type of incident, because he also had a possession of marijuana charge and a gun incident in another state and yada, yada, yada. It wasn't just the domestic violence that he got in trouble for. So if there's any incidents of any kind, it doesn't matter how small or big moving forward, it's going to be pretty hard pressed for him to stay in the good graces of the front office and the coaches. So Reuben Foster is going to have to be a model citizen moving forward. That was all I wanted to put out there about Foster. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. And he seemed to reflect that in the statement he released. Of course, that was probably doctored up by the PR staff, but hopefully he realized the opportunity ahead of him and takes full advantage. So yeah, let's keep it pushing though, man. Let's discuss the quarterback position. So as of now, we have 2 quarterbacks that I really wouldn't be upset with, trotting out there. We've got Colt McCoy and we've got Case Keenum. If it was today, Rome, who would you want to start?
If it was today and we had to go play a game right now, I would like to see – I'm going to backtrack on what I wrote down. I think it's tough. I would go with Colt McCoy over Case Keenum right now. And only because I haven't gotten to see a lot of Colt. Last year I believe the game that he actually got to start was the Dallas game, and that was on a short week on Thanksgiving. And then the following week was the Monday or the Eagles game where he broke his leg after like a quarter. So we never really got to see Colt with a full week of practice and being the starter. We only got to see him come off the bench and short week, and then he got hurt. So I'd like to see Colt with all the everything lined up for him and actually get a strong chance. But I think him and Case are neck and neck, man. It's really like splitting hairs between those two. I said on the pod earlier, or the last pod, if it comes down to those two, I will not be a happy camper. So hopefully we bring someone else in the mix. But if you had to pick right now, would you pick Colt or Case?
Man, I think I'm agree with you for a slightly different reasoning. I don't necessarily think Colt McCoy is a better quarterback than Case Keenum. I actually think Case Keenum might be a little bit better. But the thing I know about Case Keenum, and this is just from watching his career arc, he's not going to make any receivers around him better. That's what I learned about Case Keenum. Now, if he has good receivers around him, he can get them the ball, and his deficiencies will be made up for by those, by the quality of those receivers. So, for instance, when he was in Minnesota, he was tossing it to Thielen and Diggs. And he looked pretty damn good. But those are really good receivers. Next year, he goes to Denver. Slightly different story with the injuries they had at receiver. And then you combine that with the fact that is Colt going to make receivers better? Maybe not, but his knowledge of the system alone could possibly make receivers a little bit better. So when I think about it like that, I'm definitely more willing to roll with Colt. Like you said, I really don't want to go into it with either of them. So that kind of segues us into the next point, option C. Josh Rosen, man. So the Josh Rosen rumors have been heating up. Rome, could you live with Josh Rosen as your starter? How would you feel, man?
All right, Josh Rosen, in my opinion, right now, going into this 2019 season, is Washington's best option at quarterback. And that means looking at the guys in the draft, looking at what's left in free agency, and looking what's on the roster. I think Josh Rosen is definitely the best option, not even just for the cheap contract that he would bring, because I believe he's still on his rookie deal, so it would also be a great deal. You'd have him and Foster on rookie deals. But I think Rosen, brings first of all, Colt and Keenum are on 1-year deals. So after this season, who knows what they're going to do? They're also in their 30s. So do you really want to – they're not going to be your franchise guy. So you get Rosen. He is young, still has the potential to be a franchise guy if he develops correctly. And if he doesn't develop, like I said, he's on a rookie contract, so you're not really losing any money. That, to me, makes him the best option. The other options would be maybe trading up for Kyler Murray or Drew Lock or Dwayne Haskins, because those guys likely won't be there at that 15th pick. You might have to move up 2-3 spots, maybe even 10 spots to get one of them. But to me, the draft capital that you'd have to give up to move up to those spots to get those quarterbacks don't match up with what those quarterbacks are going to bring you. Trading up for Drew Lock to me is completely foolish and idiotic. Trading up for Dwayne Haskins would be a waste also. Trading up for Kyler Murray, you better make it work. That's all I'll say about that, is you better make that work. So, to me, it's a no-brainer. Josh Rosen is the best option. If they do trade for him and he comes in, I would expect there to still be some competition come training camp, but I would expect him to rise to the occasion and beat out Colt McCoy or Case Keenum, whoever it may be. But what are your thoughts about this whole Rosen thing, man? Because a lot has been said. They're saying that he's not available. They're saying that the Redskins aren't trying to give up a first round. What are you thinking?
Yeah, man. Well, I would not trade a first-round pick for Josh Rosen. Let me get that out of the way. I think based off the fact that they're waiting so long to trade him, they're losing leverage. And I just don't see him going for a first-round pick. If we were to trade the 15th pick for Rosen, I would be certainly be disappointed. But with that said, like you, I agree that Josh Rosen is our best option for the 2019 season. The tape is solid, man. I mean, he didn't have a lot to work with in Arizona as far as the offensive line goes, or the running game wasn't really productive. And, I mean, he was finding guys. It was a lot of drop passes when I went back and watched the tape. And the thing I like about Rosen, he's not really an athlete, but he has those subtle movements in the pocket where he's able to create throwing lanes and buy just enough time to get the ball loose. And I really like that a lot. So I mean, I'd take Josh Rosen. Combine that with the fact that Jay Gruden is, supposed to be a quarterback guru. You know what I mean? Maybe we could get some of that synergy together that he had with Andy Dalton in Cincinnati when they were going on their runs. So hopefully Josh Rosen can come in and Gruden can kind of resurrect his career. Hey, similar to the way McVay got a hold of Jared Goff. And don't forget that, McVay comes from the Gruden school of thought, So it's like if Gruden gets his hands on a guy like Rosen, who knows what it could be. He's the perfect quarterback for the West Coast offense. I mean, the stars kind of do align with Josh Rosen. It's just going to come down to, is it worth the price? And if it's a first rounder, in my opinion, is not worth it. You brought up some good points with the rookie quarterbacks, Haskins, Locke, even trading up for Kyler Murray. I've got a hunch that the Redskins are going to do something crazy on draft day, Rome. I really do, man. They're having a huge draft party at the Anthem in D.C. This is like the first time they've done this in years on draft night. Something big is coming, man. Something big is coming. And in Redskin style, they're going to attempt to steal the entire show. I really, after hearing about this crazy draft party that's planned, I really wouldn't even be surprised if we traded up for Kyler Murray. I just really wouldn't be surprised, man. And if that's to happen, oh, man.
Man, if we traded up for Kyler, that would be exciting. I'm not going to pretend like I wouldn't be excited. I mentioned it on the last pod also, though. I still, flinch a little bit hearing about trading up for a quarterback ever since 2012. But, I would definitely be on board for trading up for Kyler Murray. The other two guys, though, that are projected to go in the first round, I'm not too hot on. But let's throw out some hypotheticals. Let's say we don't trade for Josh Rosen, or let's say the Chargers are willing to give up their first-round pick and get Josh Rosen in to succeed Phillip Rivers. So now what do we do as Washington? Josh Rosen's off the board. Let's say Kyler's gone. Cardinals take him first. Do we trade up to try to get Locke or Haskins? What would you do?
Well, here's another hunch that I have, man. I have a hunch that Dwayne Haskins will fall. As the draft gets closer and closer, the evaluators are picking apart his game. And a lot of people are starting to ignore the stats, especially once they start to really evaluate the players around him. He's got two great receivers in McLaurin and Paris Campbell. And people are really starting to break down that tape and trying to figure out was it Haskins or was it the scheme and the receivers that were making him look as good as he was looking. So I do believe Haskins may very well be there at 15, the same way John Allen dropped to 20. And we're just sitting there and we have no choice but to take him. And if that happens, I'll be very happy. With that said, I wouldn't want to trade up and mortgage any more of our future for another quarterback. You let the chips fall how they may. And if you don't get a quarterback, you're going to have it. Let's just say all the quarterbacks are gone by our pick, right, by 15. Let's say Locke is gone, Haskins is gone, and, of course, Murray's gone. That means there's 12 guys. That's a lot of guys in that top 15. So you got 12 of the best guys in the draft to really pick from. You know what I mean? At that point, you're going to have one of those top 12 guys because those quarterbacks, besides Kyler Murray, I don't even rank any of those quarterbacks in my top 15 on my draft board. So,
yeah, I agree.
Like, if you're picking from one of the top 12 guys in the entire draft because those three quarterbacks go so early, that's a good look. And you could end up with a really good pass rusher, a really good offensive lineman, a really good receiver. If you are sold on one of those receivers, you can end up with a really good receiver. So that brings us to my next point, Rome. What would you do first round if let's say who knows? Let's put the Rosen talk aside, right? Let's just say number 15 is there. You got the choice at quarterback, receiver, offensive lineman, pass rusher, corner, safety. Which direction? We got a lot of holes, man. So which direction would you go with our first pick?
Yeah, that's the thing, man. With that's why one last thing about the Rosen thing. That's part of the reason I think trading for Rosen is so critical. Because you almost don't want to waste a draft pick on a quarterback this year. You almost need those draft picks to fill those other holes that we were just talking about. So if we don't get Rosen, if we don't want to trade up for Locke or Haskins and Murray goes 1, and we're sitting there at 15, I'm thinking guys like maybe Brian Burns. I'm thinking maybe they go wide receiver. I'm listening to Gruden. And I don't know, because he's on the last year of his contract, so I don't know how much pull he's going to have come pulling the trigger on draft day. But listening to Gruden, he wants a receiver. He wants a big, physical receiver that can still run. And there's a couple of those that will be available. I don't know, man. Like, I'm really torn. I'm going to drop my mock draft either this Thursday or Friday to put up on the Good Ass Sports website. So we'll see who I have us getting at 15 this week, so I don't want to give it away right now, but I'm thinking it's either going to be a pass rusher or a receiver. If Jay Gruden gets his way, it'll be a receiver.
Yeah, I agree with you. If Jay gets his way, it'll be a receiver. And honestly, if I had my way, it would be a receiver too. Because if I had my way, we would get Josh Rosen in that first round, man. I've been studying these receivers, man, and I'm definitely sold on a couple of these prospects. So I think I would go receiver first round. A couple names to look out for. We actually had these guys on a visit. Hakeem Butler out of Iowa State. Man, that dude, if you haven't looked him up, if you don't know who he is, YouTube his tape right now. The dude is 6'6", about 225, ran a 4.4 at the combine, 4.48 if I'm not mistaken, or 4.46 at the combine. And guess who his mentor is? It's Calvin Johnson. You don't want a better mentor than that. I mean, this guy is like, he could possibly be Calvin Johnson 2.0. I mean, Calvin Johnson said out his own mouth that he sees so many similarities between him and Butler's game. And this dude is special, man. And honestly, if they pull out the draft card, number 15, and we draft Hakeem Butler, bro, I'm telling you right now, bro, I would be a happy, happy man because that dude's going to be a stud.
Let's talk about it a little bit, man. Let's break this down real quick. We did a lot of quarterback talk. Pass rusher or receiver? Because this is a very realistic possibility. I mentioned this a few times already. We might not go quarterback in the first round. We really might not, especially if we do get Rosen. So are you comfortable if we don't go pass rusher in the first round, Ryan Anderson will likely be the starter at the outside linebacker spot. Do you feel like he's ready? Because, I mean, if we're being honest, he hasn't shown much of anything in the way of pass rushing. He's good in run support, and he's a solid player. But when it comes to consistently getting after the quarterback, I haven't even seen any flashes, really, of that. So the need for a pass rusher is there, but if we look at who we have on the roster right now for receiver, I mean, who's the starting receivers? Josh Doxson, Paul Richardson, and Trey Quinn, So, like, it's almost like we got to get a guy at 15 at receiver. Personally, I feel fine with Anderson going into the season as a starter. I think he should get a shot. Casanova McKenzie is another name. He got hurt last season, I'll throw out there. These aren't stud guys at the pass rusher spot, but it's some depth that's decent. But at wide receiver, I mean, you know how I feel about Josh Doxson. I like Paul Richardson, and I kind of like Trey Quinn too, but whoever our quarterback is, they're going to need a Hakeem Butler kind of guy or Calvin Johnson 2.0 type of receiver that they can get the ball to and rely on, because it's not looking good at receiver. Those are my thoughts on it, though. But what do you think between pass rusher and receiver?
Yeah, man, that's a tough one, man. And I'm always in the BPA crowd, or best player available. You make your board, and when it comes to your pick, whoever the top guy on your board is who you go with. So with that said, with first round picks, I'm always down to go wherever. I don't care if they see the best player and it's a cornerback, take them. You know what I mean? That's just how I view it. But if I had to choose between receiver and pass rusher, it would depend. So a few names. If one of these names were to drop, I'm jumping on pass rusher all day. Let's say Nick Bosa. If he were to drop, we're jumping on if you got to.
Yeah.
My boy, what's my boy's name out of Kentucky? Pass rusher out of Kentucky. Josh Allen out of Kentucky.
Josh Allen.
If he drops, you got to take him. I'll even go Rashawn Gary out of Michigan. If he drops, you got to take him. And Montez Sweat, Mississippi State. If one of those four names drops at 15, I'm sprinting to the podium. If it's not one of those guys, if it's a Ja'Kai Polite in the first round, if it's a Brian Burns, who I do like a lot, I just think Hakeem Butler is a better player than those guys. I think even other receivers I wouldn't hesitate to take high, especially considering that we've lacked, production for so long. I wouldn't be upset if I saw a receiver like Paris Campbell, someone who can take the ball to the house on any given play. I wouldn't be mad if I saw him drafted at 15 because he has Tyreek Hill-like ability. And, I mean, that's worth a first-round pick. So, I mean, I really wouldn't be upset if they did go in any direction, mainly because we have so many holes as well. I mean, even if a guy like DeAndre Baker out of Georgia, cornerback, is there at 15, like, how do you not take DeAndre Baker? This dude might have been the top corner in last year's draft, So it's so many directions, man, you can go. And, I like this draft for our holes. We have enough holes that, somebody's going to be there to fill a need and is going to be one of the best prospects in the draft at our pick. Hopefully it comes down to wide receiver or edge rusher. And one of those top guys on our big board, I'm talking Paris Campbell, Hakeem Butler, even in N'Keal Harry, I wouldn't be mad about, although I think he might drop to the second round. But any of those guys in that first round, man, I could live with. It just has to be an impact player at this point. We need somebody that's going to make an impact. Oh, one more name before I get away from this. One more name to watch out for the first round. T.J. Hawkinson out of Iowa. Tight end out of Iowa.
I was waiting for you to throw that out there.
Hey, man, this dude reminds me, if anybody's familiar with George Kittle from the 49ers in the season he had, every time and he's from Iowa too, I believe. Every time I watch this guy Hawkinson, he just reminds me so much of Kittle. When he gets that ball, he can break the middle, and he only ran a 4.7, but he's explosive enough that he reaches top speed so fast he can be out on guys. I like Hawkinson a lot. So Jordan Reed's often injured. He's often injured, and if we went with tight end, that wouldn't be a bad choice either, in my opinion.
Well, Gruden has also mentioned that they need tight ends that can block and receive, because Jordan Reed, even when he's not injured and he's on the field, it's almost a given that it's a passing down if he's the tight end out there. He's really just a fourth receiver, or fifth receiver, if you will. And then you got Jeremy Sprinkle, I believe, he can catch and stuff, but, it's almost a dead giveaway when he's on the field that it's going to be a run because he's our blocking tight end. So you definitely need a guy like T.J. Hawkinson who can just plow you over as a blocker, but also can run out there and make plays as a receiver. And that's very hard to find. So I would absolutely love a TJ Hawkinson pick at 15, and that seems like a very realistic pick. I would almost take him over some of the receivers just because of how Gruden runs his offense. But, man, there's just a lot to get into with this draft, man. Like, we could go all day with this.
Nah, man, we really can. I think the people are going to like to hear this because, hey, when it's draft season, this is the best time to improve your roster. I mean, free agency is great, but you get the long-term improvements through the draft. And we've seen firsthand some of these guys that, you know, that we maybe didn't know too much about coming out the draft that really turn into studs. You know, think of a guy like Matt Ioannidis, you know what I mean? Like, so you just never know with the draft. So it's good to pay attention. It's good to know the future of your team. And hopefully we got the right guys in charge. I want to see. Hopefully it's Kyle Smith making the pick. It's not Doug Williams. Because according to Doug Williams, he doesn't scout for scheme.
Yeah.
All right, my bad.
Good old
Doug,
man.
My bad, Doug. But yeah, man. So let's keep it pushing, man. I think that's enough on the draft. We're gonna get back to the draft next episode, and we'll knock out the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, all the way to the 7th rounds, and we'll give you guys some names to look out for, some names that we like. So stay tuned for that. But moving on to the NFC East roundup, man. Let's talk about the East, man. So OBJ officially out of the division. You know, it's a good feeling. I'm happy we don't have to deal with that guy. What do you think about his press conference, man, to the Browns?
Man, I thought that was kind of interesting, man. Seeing him and Baker and my man Juice Landry, everybody. The Browns are going to be something, but the biggest thing that stood out to me as far as it pertains to the Redskins was Odell leaving, I think, is going to negatively affect Josh Norman's play. Now, stay with me. So,
Okay, I'm with you.
Josh Norman, the best that you get from a guy like Josh Norman, he literally thrives on competition. When we first brought him here, who was in the division? Odell, Dez. The Eagles had Alshon Jeffrey. You know what I mean? There's all these big receivers, and we needed Josh to come shut him down, and he was more than up for the challenge. And if you notice, last season, he's kind of struggling a little bit. So what happens? People start talking trash about him in the media. D'Angelo Hall, former teammate, says some comments, kind of calls him out. Then all of a sudden he gets a pick. He starts playing really well. Josh Norman is the kind of guy where you got to put that extra pressure on him, that extra emphasis. So he has this mindset where he knows he's going against Odell, who has had his number before, who's one of the best in the game, and he will come out and he'll give a better performance than he normally does. So it's a little bit of a deeper thing, but I think Odell going to Cleveland is good on the surface, but might not be as good for a guy like Josh Norman. But, I mean, this could be his last season in Washington, so who knows?
Hey, but, man, I couldn't agree more with that, man. That's an interesting take, too. And I definitely agree with that, man. So, yeah, so let's hope that Josh Norman's able to rise his play and he doesn't regress too much now that the competition, you know, is out of the division, kind of. You know what I mean? Hopefully he doesn't play down to the competition now.
Exactly.
Let's keep it pushing, man. Deshaun Jackson, the dangerous deep threat, is back in Philadelphia, man. First reaction to that news?
First reaction was the football guys are just playing cruel jokes on Redskin fans because Odell leaves, Deshaun comes back. It's like, damn, man, can we catch a break? But I love Jackson, man. Jackson's one of my all-time favorite players to watch. I'll never forget that punt return he had when he was on the Eagles, and
Classic.
He killed the Giants. I'll never forget that as long as I live. He has some pretty good moments as a Redskin too, man. Hopefully he doesn't have too many more good moments for the rest of his career at FedEx Field, though. What were your thoughts on Jackson coming back to the division?
Man, I'm just hopefully he slows down a step. You know, he's getting up there. That was my first thought. I was like, well, at least he's getting a little bit older. He's still like he had the burners when he was in Tampa Bay, so it's not looking likely for him to fall off. But yeah, man, just another guy for us to deal with. Hopefully, we're more equipped with Landon Collins in the secondary. You know what I mean? Hopefully, we're more equipped to deal with it. Hopefully, we get another safety in the draft, and we're able to deal with those deep threats a little better. But yeah, it's definitely gonna be rough, man. You know, one thing I do know though, is Philly. They I don't know, man. I don't know how accurate Carson Wentz's deep ball really is. I don't know if I'm really worried about Carson Wentz's deep ball at the end of the day. I'm not really worried about Carson Wentz. Maybe that's just me, but yeah. So
yeah, when he completes the whole season, I might be worried about him, but he hasn't even done that yet. So
yeah, we're not sold on Carson and here at Hail to the Culture. So let's keep it pushing, man. So would you categorize Dallas as the team to beat in the East right now?
It pains me to say it, but yes, man. I honestly think Dallas is probably one of the better teams in the entire conference at the moment. I'm still a little page from Stephen A. Smith, though, man. One of the best parts about Dallas having expectations is they're an accident waiting to happen, and it is going to be a glorious fall when they fall. But we've mentioned it on the pod before. Dallas is in a win-now mode, man. Like, they got all these contracts coming up. They got a bunch of good players right now. Like, this is their season to really do it and to really make a push. So I'm not going to just be a Cowboy hater. I'm going to keep it real. We're going to always keep it real here at Hail to the Culture. Dallas is definitely the team to beat going into this 2019 season. And, I mean, this could be their year, man. This could be their year to win it all. I really hope not, and I doubt it because I don't trust Jason Garrett. I honestly think they have all the pieces. They have all the ingredients to cook a bomb meal, but they have a terrible chef right now in Jason Garrett. So we'll see how that comes out. But what do you think about Dallas?
Yeah, man. I'm not too worried about him. I mean, I'm like the same way I'm not sold on Carson Wentz. I'm far less sold on Dak Prescott. I am. Hey, look, I'm completely out on Dak Prescott. So I hope they do give him. Yeah, completely. I hope they give him the huge contract. I hope he gets all the money in the world because, yeah, I need him in Dallas. I need him in Dallas for a while because, I'm just not sold. But I'm not really fearing the Cowboys.
I'm not sold on Dak either. I would say him and Carson aren't that far apart, though. I wouldn't say they're that far apart.
I feel you. I guess Carson Wentz, he strikes more fear into me as a Redskins fan than Dak, I think, ever will. Because I just know how limited of a passer Dak really is. I've seen this guy throw flat, wide open flat to dude's feet. Like, I mean, I don't get me wrong. He can fix it, but I don't know. It seems like it moves too fast for Dak sometimes. But
I agree with you completely on that, though, because Dak will have a completely clean pocket and throw a terrible ball, and it's horrible sometimes. But, I mean, he do make some plays now, man.
Yeah, he makes some plays. I'll give him that. He makes some plays. He's best when he's running and breaking the pocket. But I don't really fear Dak. Don't get me wrong. Dallas might be the best team on paper right now, but team to beat, I can't even call them that because, like, someone new wins the NFC East damn near every year. So we already know that. We already know it's going to go the same way, and I'm not really concerned about Dallas. You know what? I'm going to have a hot take right now, man. Bold prediction. Dallas finishes last in the division this year. It's going to be a completely flip-flop. The Giants will surprise some folks, and Dallas finishes last, man. And that brings us into the number one question for New York fans right now. What are the Giants doing? You answer that. I don't know.
Can anybody answer that?
I don't know, man. I don't even know if it's answered.
Alexa, what are the Giants doing?
Nothing.
I don't think nobody knows, man. This is crazy.
Right.
That's what makes your bold prediction so crazy. Is it's just as much as I would love for that to happen, it's so hard to see the Giants, anyone being worse than the Giants in the East right now. We still got the draft to go, and they got 2 first-round picks now, so they could make some splashes with those picks. There's been talk about them trading up to get Kyler Murray, so we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, see, the Giants, honestly, to me right now, I view them as a 500 ball club. I don't view them as that bad. Towards the end of the season, they were playing some decent football, if I'm being honest. Towards the end, they were playing some pretty decent football, and I could see them, 8-8, 7-9 season, and then the same way, the same way how we imploded last season. I could see that happening to Dallas easily. Might have happened without an Amari Cooper trade. So I could easily see that to happen into Dallas. And that's it's just a hot take for now. We'll see how it unfolds.
For sure.
So, yeah, man. Let's keep it pushing, man. Let's jump into around the league real quick before we get out of here, man. let's just talk about this debacle in Pittsburgh, man. I mean, just a year or two ago, you had the Killer Bees. Everybody was loving the combination of Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, and Big Ben, and everybody it just seemed like they were, seemed like they had a dynasty for some years to come. And now, in hindsight, it's just all crumbled. Like, what do you think about that, Rome?
I think I'm going to have a little bit of a bold prediction on this one, and I think the Steelers' present will be the Cowboys' future. When you have all those star players and all those stars are aligned and you got to pay all these people, go win the Super Bowl. Win it while you can. The Steelers had their chance with the Killer Bees when they had Le'Veon and Antonio and Ben all out there a couple years ago. They couldn't get past the Patriots. It all implodes. It's very hard to do in the NFL to keep that kind of talent together. And if you look at Dallas, they have a very similar core structure right now. And you got too many personalities in the NFL locker room. I like Mike Tomlin better than I like Jason Garrett. I think most people would agree that he's a better coach, and it still happened to Mike Tomlin. And the locker room completely fell apart. So, I mean, the only positive thing I can say about what's going on in Pittsburgh is it's entertaining from a fan perspective. It gives us something to write about. I've wrote a few times about Antonio Brown this season, this off season, but honestly, it's also kind of sad because if you think about what could have been and how it all ended and how ugly it's gotten with Antonio taking so many shots at Ben and Juju, and then you got former players coming out alluding that Ben might be racist and all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, it's definitely gotten a little bit too ugly for my taste, but it started off kind of entertaining.
Yeah, man. It's gotten ugly, bro. It's gotten ugly in Pittsburgh. And some of those accusations, man, it's crazy. Like you said, man, some of those accusations, that's some heavy stuff, man, that they're throwing Ben's way. And he doesn't really seem to be jumping in front of it, jumping in front of all these accusations. Who knows what he is as a person. But there's been a few guys now. If it was just one guy saying something about Ben, saying Ben is not a good dude, maybe you say take it like a grain of salt. But it's just having more and more guys almost seeming every couple weeks coming out and got something negative to say about Ben. So, hey, that eventually you got to start speaking to a man's character. And maybe he is more of the reason than people actually realize for the implosion in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he's gonna need to. Whenever he does have a press conference or whatever, he's gonna have some questions he's gonna answer. I'm gonna need to hear from Ben directly.
I feel you. No bull. Like Ben's got to answer for these accusations. So let's. Last question, man. Should Kyler Murray be the number 1 overall pick? What do you think?
Man, I might take some heat for this, but I'm not sold on Kyler Murray, man. Like I don't see what everyone else sees. Now, I like him going to Arizona, so I will say this. He should be the number 1 pick because of the unique situation with Cliff Kingsbury in Arizona right now. I think he could be extremely successful. But all these comparisons to Russell Wilson and saying that he's going to light this league on fire, a lot of people have had that kind of hype, and it has not panned out. So my thoughts on Kyler Murray is more of a wait and see. Like, I know you were great in college, and I respect that, but the league is different. And we've seen people be great in college, and it has not translated to the league. So I'm not completely sold that he should just flat out be the number 1 pick. I would probably say that Nick Bosa is a better defensive end than Kyler Murray is a quarterback. But like I also said, because of the unique situation, I completely understand Kyler Murray going first. You probably think differently, though.
Nah, man. Like, it almost seems like the best quarterback goes first every year. And Kyler Murray's definitely the best quarterback in the draft. Is he the best player in the draft? Like you, I don't agree that he's the best player in the draft. I mean, I got my number 1 overall guy is Quinnen Williams out of Alabama. And, I mean, D-line, not a sexy pick, but that's BPA, And so Kyler would probably go first. Is he deserving? I mean, he's the best quarterback in the draft, so I guess so. But is he the best player in the draft? Absolutely not. I got about 7 guys on my board that I view as, better potential players long term than Kyler Murray. But the thing about the quarterback position is if you're good, you affect the game so much more than everybody else. That quarterbacks pretty much almost deserve that first-round pick, that top pick, if they're good,
I just almost feel like if Kingsbury wasn't coaching the Cardinals right now, that Kyler wouldn't be projected one, because you're going to have to tailor your offense to him. And not that that's a bad thing. Like, it could be explosive, but I expect it to be explosive if he does go to Arizona. But, I mean, to me, a guy that, like, he's not a safe pick. It's a boom or bust pick. Like, he could still, not that I think he will be horrible, but it could still go very negative with Kyler Murray.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely interesting to watch how his career pans out. So I'm excited to see him play. I'll be watching him in the preseason, that's for sure. So, hey, man, any final thoughts you want to leave the people with? Definitely want them to stay tuned for the next episode. We'll be breaking down the draft more in depth. Roman, any final thoughts?
Yeah, man, just stay tuned. We're going to have a lot of content coming to you guys about this draft. We're going to be dropping a few pods. Keep up with the website as well, and keep up with the Twitter at Hell to the Culture.
Hell to the Culture, signing off.
Free world. Yeah. My hitters be moving and shaking and stay out the streets. Yeah. Your hitters be hating, your hitters be looking so weak. Yeah. My hitters be moving and shaking and stay out the streets. Your hitters be hating, your hitters be looking so. Snuff the shooter, snuff the looter, snuff the booster, snuff the money mover. Snuff the hater, snuff the player, snuff your hairline, tape up and shake.